Sorry, not personal.
The SpongeBob Cosmic Shake updates continue with our very first uncut gameplay directly from Gamescom. This was shared via THQ Nordic's livestream of the event, as well as an interview with senior producer of THQ Nordic, Martin Crouch, and Andreas Jarzabek, who's the project manager at Purple Lamp Studios, who gave us more insight into the game's story, gameplay, and other details. If you want to watch the interview yourself, I'll leave a link in the description below. Same goes for the gameplay from the stream, which Nintendo Everything posted separately, as well as IGN's extended Cosmic Shake gameplay the following day. But everything we learned about the game from Gamescom, I've compiled together into this one convenient video. So without further ado, let's dive in and start breaking everything down. Just a quick note before we get started is that this is a demo, so therefore things are likely to change between now and the release date. Like the jellyfish popping out of existence when hit, I would imagine that this will be something that gets changed the closer we get to launch. So the first thing we're greeted to is the demo's main menu, and instantly we can hear a piece of music that we've heard at certain points in the cartoon. And this isn't the only instance of music from the cartoon being used in the game, as the Steam page mentions that there will be 101 songs from the show featured in the game. Now, it doesn't specify if it's referring to just vocal songs like Sweet Victory, or if it's a combination of vocal tracks with the standard background music we hear in various episodes. Because in the interview portion of THQ Nordic's stream, we didn't get confirmation on that, but we did learn that various tracks from the show, like title card themes and background tracks, or in the case of Western Jellyfish Fields, the saloon music from Pest of the West will play when you get close to the saloon area of the level, which we can see in the background about 3 minutes into the gameplay, and honestly, that's pretty cool. But since I'm on the topic of the game's music, it is confirmed that the original Battle for Bikini Bottom composers are returning to compose brand new tracks for the Cosmic Shake. And I don't know about you guys, but there's something special about seeing people who worked on something in the same series a long time ago return for something brand new in said series is something I really like to see. Looking at the control scheme, we see that SpongeBob has a brand new dodge ability, something we've never seen before in a SpongeBob game. But do we actually see it in action? Well, I believe the dodge is in the form of the cartwheel move. Considering every time we've seen this move, it never seems to be used against enemies. So, the cartwheel move is most likely the dodge. The bubble throw ability we seen in the trailer can once again be used on enemies with this icon above them, as well as creating brand new platforms. Sweet. This one might be a bit obvious, but gliding works just as it did with Sandy in Rehydrated. This also comes with a stamina meter, the kind we see in Breath of the Wild. There's also a swing hook move, but we don't really get to see that used in the demo. Alright, enough about the controls, let's move on to the actual gameplay. We open up in Western Jellyfish Fields to a cutscene with Mr. Krabs. Oh, excuse me, I mean familiar looking guy. Okay, sure.
One barrel down. Follow that trail, my little saps.
We got Clancy Brown returning as Mr. Krabs, following up on the promise that every character will be voiced by their original voice actors. And it's so good to hear. Bye bye, discount Mr. Krabs. Now, while we're here, I think I should bring up the part of the interview regarding NPCs who are still quest givers, appearing in different costumes. Well, it's essentially due to the effects of the Wish Worlds everyone becomes trapped in thanks to SpongeBob and Patrick just overdoing it with their wishes, as explained in the interview.
And there's two versions of them, so you either have the real Squidward who got kind of torn into the prehistoric level and you need to save him. Or you've got the actual medieval Squidward that doesn't know SpongeBob. Like, you meet him in the medieval world and he thinks he is a medieval character.
Yeah.
And he reacts as if he's from that world.
So it's kind of like the Sonic storybook games in a way, but this gives the writers a lot of room to experiment and have fun with the story, which these characters play a bigger part in compared to Rehydrated. Like the Flying Dutchman playing a big role in the newly confirmed Pirate Goo Lagoon, which Larry the Lobster will appear in according to the game's box art, as well as the Dutchman appearing in Halloween Rock Bottom as seen in the game's reveal trailer. And thus, 6 of the 7 Wish Worlds are currently known: Western Jellyfish Fields, Halloween Rock Bottom, Prehistoric Kelp Forest, Karate Downtown Bikini Bottom, Pirate Goo Lagoon, and the Medieval Sulphur Fields. In terms of costumes, Martin Crouch does confirm that there will be a costume where SpongeBob is dressed up as the Flying Dutchman, as well as a costume based on the Opposite Day episode. You know, the one where SpongeBob and Patrick pretend to be Squidward and whatnot. How these costumes came into play is, well, the team looked at previous SpongeBob games as inspiration for this area. And basically, the more you play the game, the more you unlock, and since levels are replayable, you can go back and collect everything with any costume and new skills you've learned from later levels. I mentioned how the writing team had a good bit of freedom on the game, and that's partially due to the good relationship THQ Nordic has with Nickelodeon, who were very supportive throughout the game's development, and this allowed the writing team over at Purple Lamp Studios to have 2 writers from the show, one of them being the lead writer for the current seasons, and basically they come in, edit the scripts, polish up the dialogue, add more jokes, that sort of thing, to make it as faithful as possible to the original seasons, and to be as fun as possible in order to honor the Steven Hillenburg humor, while throwing in as many references and as much fan service as possible, like SpongeBob singing the Krusty Krab pizza song when gliding.
The Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza for you and me.
That's awesome. As for the game's story, it's referred to as a narrative-driven adventure that's very long and has a ton of cutscenes. That doesn't really say much, but at least we know it's not going to be a short game by any means. Alright, for real this time, let's get back to the gameplay. The checkpoint markers return from Rehydrated, and so do the character animations during conversations. But, unlike Rehydrated, the animations don't go on and on for what seems like forever after the characters stop talking. Now, they feel much more natural, they stop at the right times, and even the lip syncing feels way more polished than Rehydrated. Oh man, look at that squash animation, it's perfect! Oh hey, it's the pufferfish cannons from Rehydrated's Jellyfish Fields. Okay, now I'm just getting flashbacks to Jak 2. Oh, and the game has new tightrope sections too. And this one happens to be the Pufferfish Cannon Waterfall. This is going to be Sonic the Werehog all over again, isn't it? There's these cow skulls we can talk to. Not really sure why, but okay. So after that conversation with Mr. Krabs, it becomes abundantly clear that these levels are much bigger, with a lot more directions to go in, and more things to do, truly expanding on the Rehydrated formula, while visually looking better than ever. And the levels are apparently so big that they added an objective system, typically seen in games like Marvel's Spider-Man or the Horizon series, with an indicator telling you where to go. In this case, it's finding cactus juice for Mr. Krabs to progress to the next area. And I'm sure this'll go for any other quest-related collectibles. SpongeBob's health is displayed in fractions now, instead of a health bar in Rehydrated, which is nice as it does decrease screen clutter. But when SpongeBob gets low on health, Patrick will actually bring SpongeBob some more before moving on. And while that's a nice feature, I just hope it doesn't make things too easy. I'm looking at you, Sonic Colors Ultimate, for not having a Tails setting. But something I do appreciate is that falling in water doesn't outright cause you to lose like in Rehydrated, and then having to wait for some really long load times which really shouldn't have been there in the first place. In Cosmic Shake, that's no longer here. Instead, you immediately respawn, and that's thanks to Patrick bringing you back to safety, but by the looks of it, this'll only work until you run out of health. And since I brought up Patrick, I've seen people wondering if Patrick is going to be sort of a way for a second player to play the game after seeing some of the gameplay in the trailer. Well, according to the interview, the answer is no, as once again, SpongeBob is the only focus in terms of playable characters, and Patrick is there purely for SpongeBob to interact with, like we see in the show all the time, with the typical types of conversations the two have.
What I saw, Mr. Krabs!
You're seeing things, SpongeBob. Oh, this desert must be giving you sand brain.
And that's something that hasn't really been done in a SpongeBob game before, so I'm really glad to see that here, as it does help to give the game its own identity while being a bit different than Rehydrated. In terms of combat, enemies that cannot be dealt with in one hit now have health bars this time around, which I do like, and I think it's a step up from Rehydrated, where most of the enemies are just the soap bubble type, with the exception of Slick and the Tubelets, which require multiple hits. But these tougher enemies that require 3 hits will spawn more enemies, including one that acts as sort of a successor to the Tartar bot from Rehydrated. Enemy introduction cutscenes are returning, and the animation still looks pretty good. According to Martin Crouch, he refers to the combat as Traversal combat, and used the karate kick homing attack as an example of how it works, allowing you to deal with enemies while still letting you move forward and reach new places. Unless you find yourself in one of these new arena-like scenarios, which not only pop up frequently, but they also require defeating every single enemy in order to progress. As for collectibles, well, you have the coins and cosmic jelly, as SpongeBob refers to it.
Ooh, more jelly!
Still don't know what they're for, but they do pop up in the top right corner of the HUD, where the shiny counter was located in Rehydrated. Tikis now have proper physics this time around, like in the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, which was mostly absent in Rehydrated. We also got a proper look at the returning floating Tikis, which can still be used for platforming purposes. SpongeBob's voice lines when taking damage are definitely more responsive than they were in Rehydrated, where they were kinda delayed when taking damage multiple times in a row. This was one of my biggest complaints about Rehydrated, and I'm glad to see it fixed here. We get to see some gameplay for Mystery the Seahorse, and oh, yeah, getting on and off Mystery definitely needs some more work because this is jarring. And this is a bug. But other than that, Mystery looks to control rather well. You can also make her go faster, like you would Polar in the Crash Bandicoot games, and that's always a good thing. And I do like how her health is represented by Krabby Patties, which could be a reference to the form of health in the SpongeBob movie game, or the fact she ate too many Krabby Patties in her debut episode. In terms of a release date, it still hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but it's been confirmed that in the coming weeks and months, there will be more and more gameplay, teasers, and then the release window. We just have to wait a little bit longer. But I mean, there appears to be more development time being put into Cosmic Shake compared to Rehydrated, and that's always a good thing. Just look at Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart compared to the PS4 game. That's 10 months versus probably 3 years. That is a big difference, and it shows a lot. So, if all goes well, then there might be DLC for the Cosmic Shake later on down the line.
Are there any worlds you would have loved to do, but they may be scrapped until a expansion or
There
something?
have been some ideas, but we won't tell them because potentially we might still get the chance to use them.
Who knows, but I'm excited to see what else they've got in store for the game, and with that said guys, that's going to be about everything for this video. As usual, if I missed anything, or if you have any questions, please be sure to leave them all down in the comments section below, and as always, I've been Blue Knight. Thank you all so much for watching and for the constant support. I'll see you guys back here next time.